Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Throne of Steel episode number 153 based on novel. So let's start. The demon god emperor had a warm-looking gaze. His looks were really young, looking just a bit older than Long Houchen. At the very moment, he seemed like an older brother chatting with Houchen. I was really shocked that time, and that was the first time I felt that you were a threatening existence. Unfortunately, I still did not know that you were the one chosen by Austin Griffin at that time, bringing him into this world. That's until Arbao reported this information about you, along with the fact that Austin Griffin had already grown 4 heads. Then I came to realize that the one who would cause our future destruction was actually you. Long Houchen coldly remarked, so you launched the holy war, putting the people in a terrible situation. The demon god emperor responded indifferently, no matter how unwilling to kill you I was, your very existence threatens my race's safety, so I had no other choice. Mercifulness doesn't fit a general, especially a race's head like me. Even if Arbao was the one sheltering Austin Griffin, I would have made the same choice. For the sake of making you come here, I was forced to put on a play with Agars, but I knew long before that the holy war would show no results. It was just for the sake of consuming the human force. What a shame, unlike me, you are no ruler and won't ever understand what a ruler has to give up on, and what he has to choose. Long Houchen declared, if you hadn't personally put on such a play, how could we be fooled? By attracting us here with such an irresistible bait, you succeeded. To keep speaking would do no good, now do what you ought to. The demon god emperor shook his head, letting out a light sigh. Listen to me until the end. I have no desire to kill you, but just no other choice. I want to do one last thing for you. By killing you, Austin Griffin will naturally die in his own world and my goal will be attained. I will let your comrades go so you can at least die at ease. Majesty. On his side, Agars couldn't help but shout loudly. Long Houchen was not the only excellent person in his demon hunt squad, bright glimmer of hope. In this demon hunt squad were 2 other gods chosen ones, and almost all gods chosen ones in Shin Mordalu's history inflicted them with terrible damage. In such desperate straits when God's chosen ones have still not completely grown, letting these enemies with unbounded potential go was the release of young humans with future endless rancer, nothing less than future calamities stored up. Shut up. Fengxiu's look suddenly became cold, and an incomparable aura of terror burst out from him, keeping Agars from saying the words he still had. This was an undoubtable display of the defying Devil Dragon Emperor's might. Agars, who had a pale face, lowered his head respectfully and didn't dare utter a word. Fengxiu coldly swept a glance at Agars. No one is to question my decisions. I accept your majesty's punishment. Agars hanged his head low. In a wave of his hand, Fengxiu reappeared in front of Long Houchen, paying no more attention to Agars. Although he knew fully that the demon god emperor wouldn't give empty words, Long Houchen couldn't help but lose his voice. You. Are you for real? You are willing to let my comrades go? After learning earlier that they had fallen into this trap, Long Houchen and his comrades had already made the resolve to die. But now, the demon god emperor was suddenly declaring he was willing to let go of his comrades. This was an immeasurable pleasant surprise in his ears. I never take back my words. Fengxiu slowly shut his eyes as he said so. Long Houchen was unfamiliar with this demon god emperor, but the moon demon god and star demon god were extremely familiar with Fengxiu. The star demon god Visago did not express anything, but the moon demon god Agars was in secret shock because he knew that the demon god emperor would only show this expression when in an extreme internal conflict. Even after having followed the demon god emperor for so many years, this kind of situation happened only a few times, and it was now taking place in front of an enemy he must kill. Boss, we want to stay with you in life as well as death. Behind Long Houchen, almost everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope spoke these words in unison. Long Houchen suddenly broke out in anger. Drivel. Don't tell me you think your lives are mine? From the day you became demon hunters, your lives belong to the Alliance. His body was slightly shaking, as he deeply watched the group attentively. Still remember those words I told Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi. Live on, and you will have the chance to take revenge for your comrades in the future. But if you die, you won't ever have any chance. Death is not a fearful thing. But if you follow me just like that, I won't ever forgive you even from the other side, because that's the act of a coward. I will always keep watching you from an unseen world, until the day that you come back to this Modu core city. If you still recognize me as your captain, don't do foolish things. I am ordering each of you from Bright Glimmer of Light to keep living and take revenge for me in battle in a short time. Seeing his stubborn look, the eyes of the others watching him gradually became red. Everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope unconsciously shuddered from the emotions. Right, to die was a very simple thing, but to keep living was even harder. No! Kia suddenly let out a shout close to hysteria, fiercely throwing herself on Long Houchen's embrace, but without leaving her any time to give voice, Long Houchen's hand noiselessly pinched her neck. With a light groan, Kia slowly fell limp on the ground. 2 clear drops flowed along Long Houchen's face as the various memories starting from his encounter with Kia flashed incessantly. He remembered clearly about the first time he met Kia, as she was still a little girl. He reminisced clearly on every moment he spent with Kia. Every one of them flashed through. The happiest moments of his life were probably the times of sending off Kia every day during his participation in the Demon Hunter selection, pulling her hand and slowly walking on the streets. But this couldn't happen again anymore. He knew that he could convince the other members, who would righteously obey his plans, but he had no way to convince Kia, so he could only force her into a calm state first. Lowering his head and lightly kissing her forehead, then her fair cheeks, his feelings of reluctance to part were clearly visible in the eyes of all members from Bright Glimmer of Hope. Captain! Lin Xin, who was long since unable to bear his tears, called out loudly. Shut up! Long Houchen shouted. He obviously knew what Lin Xin wanted to say, but he couldn't let him do that. After he managed to make the others press down their feelings with such difficulty, if they were ignited anew, he had no confidence to make everyone calmly accept the incoming tragedy. Long Houchen didn't look at the others any further, but lowered his head, directing all his last emotion to Kia in his arms. Foolish girl, how could I look at you doing such a stupid thing? Did you know, I really hope you can once again lose your memories after leaving from here. Forget about me and about all this pain. Sorry that I cannot stay by your side until growing old. Saying that, he delicately took off her the blue forget-me-not ring, flickering a dark gold color inside the Star Demon Pagoda. Long Houchen put it on Kia's finger, then softly kissed her cheek once again. With a stride forward, he handed her over to Wang Yuan. Raising his head to give another look to the group, he saw them all teary, their eyes all filled with grim sadness. Don't be sad. I already feel blessed and happy that you can all leave from here alive. Remember this, live well. From the other side, I will be waiting for you all to take revenge for me. My soul will be watching over you. I have a last request for you all, no matter what, don't let Kia take revenge impatiently. You must keep her alive, even if you have to knock her out after she awakes. Just don't let her do anything stupid. Wang Yuan accepted Kia and nodded vigorously. Even someone as strong as her was unable to bear her tears, totally speechless. To die could be an easy thing compared to living on. They really hoped to share Long Houchen's fate here, but understood deeply that Long Houchen was right. They were demon hunters, whose lives were already not their own anymore, but the Alliance's, and all humanity's. They couldn't die here like that, as they were the only ones who could take revenge for Houchen in the future. Abruptly turning his head, Long Houchen didn't dare look at Kia further, afraid to be unable to repress his inner feelings any longer. Lowering his head, he murmured to himself, sorry Hao, I couldn't protect you, and had to implicate you in my dying fate. If there's a next life, I am willing to make one with you, so that we can stay good brothers this next lifetime. Saying that, he abruptly raised his head, forcibly throwing off his tears. Raising his head and shutting his eyes, he turned toward the demon god emperor who never stopped him from bidding his last farewells to his comrades. Your Majesty demon god emperor, although we are enemies, I thank you for being willing to let my comrades go. But I just have a last request that I hope you can grant me. Feng Xie replied calmly, speak. Long Houchen showed some pride on his face and declared loudly, I am a knight from the Night Temple, who has grown learning a knight's essence. As a knight who couldn't protect his comrades well, I must die here today, but as a knight, I hope that you could let me die in a fitting way, as I am unwilling to face a cowardly end. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you. Those simple words from Houchen's mouth were resonating with force. The heretofore extremely serene star demon god Visago couldn't help but reveal astonishment after hearing his statement. For him to have the courage to say such a thing in such desperate straits, and when facing such an irresistible enemy, he couldn't help but gain a whole new level of respect for Long Houchen. All right. The demon god emperor shouted abruptly, shutting his eyes. 2 resplendent cold flames surged from these eyes, gazing at Long Houchen ardently. A deep sadness and appreciation could be seen in those eyes. This complex expression now carried a tint of resolution. You deserve to be called someone I care about. I will give you this honor, the demon god emperor said loudly, and in a flash, his figure landed 20 meters away from Long Houchen. Long Houchen placed his right fist on his chest, striking it in the middle, and showed the demon god emperor a knight salute. Thank you. I hope you will abide by your promises. Xiaofeng gave Long Houchen a deep glance. If I had the choice, I'd rather hope that you wouldn't die here. But it's already late to say that. You should realize that asking to die by my hand is also a matter of terrible cruelty. I will be killing with my own hands my own. At this point, he cut his speech, becoming silent. An unnatural-looking smile then appeared on his face. There are some matters you should better not learn. I hope you can die without any regrets. Come with your strongest attack, so that I can see just what level you have finally reached. Long Houchen nodded. Right now, he didn't have any more tears falling, only strong attachment. A strong attachment of his very own. Standing here, Long Houchen didn't immediately make a move. Seemingly in a mystical state, his eyes gradually gained a grim look. The penetrating golden color of his eyes had just become pure beyond compare. A faint light fog arose around his body, shrouding him in a totally white fog. Long Houchen's aria of the goddess of light and blue rain, hibiscus of light, which were previously separated, were slowly lifted above his head, and Yating reappeared behind him. As Long Houchen's elemental fairy, in case Long Houchen died, due to her close link with him she'd hardly survive. But the current Yating didn't have any sad look, only a look of tenderness and dedication. She didn't give a single look to the demon god emperor, focusing her gaze from beginning to end on Long Houchen himself, unwilling to waste time with any other matter. Orange and green crossed in midair, as the gold-colored Yating became the catalyst for their fusion. A brilliance full of white heat filled with intense divine aura once again ascended from this star demon pagoda, and became one with the white fog surrounding Long Houchen's body, bursting out with intense incandescent flames. Without a doubt, the Long Houchen currently reached the greatest peak he had ever attained in his life. Even his eyes had turned into an incandescent color. The demon god Emperor Fengxiu watched Long Houchen attentively. The look on his eyes didn't change from beginning to end, the sadness and appreciation in his eyes was pulsing from the deepest parts. Long Houchen moved, his left feet striding forward abruptly. The heavy sword grasped in his hand struck slowly. His movement looked very slow, but looking at this sword strike, even powerhouses of the Moon Demon God and Star Demon God's levels couldn't help but react in alert. Long Houchen's sword did not follow any trajectory, only full of dedicated sword intent. This was not a sword intent of terrible might, but it was impossible to dodge, harmonizing with that divine tool sword of creation and life which had already surpassed the level of an ordinary divine tool. The sword intent inside that sword of his had already risen to the peak, and that instant, he achieved a state of communion with the sword. He was his sword, and his sword was him in the meantime. His sword and he were made one in the truest meaning. Fengxiu did not move, only calmly looking at Long Houchen as his sword slowly approached the top of his head. The interior of the whole Star Demon Pagoda already had turned into an incandescent color due to Long Houchen's sword strike, and massive fluctuations of spiritual energy moved rhythmically in the air. All the darkness essence was actually crushed upon contact with Long Houchen's sword, and even the Star Demon God surrounded himself with starlight that instant, involuntarily launching his powerful aura to resist all the holy light spiritual energy contained in his sword. At Long Houchen's back appeared slowly a pure white image, the goddess of light. This sword strike looked simple, but already contained everything Long Houchen had. His divine tool, God descent, sword intent, and all his will and spiritual energy. That was his strongest state since birth, and very possibly his final attack. The demon god emperor showed a slight emotional reaction, slowly waving his right hand. His movement appeared slow, and as he moved, not the slightest elemental essence was released, giving off the feeling that he was just an older, more ordinary person, simply and unhurriedly lifting his hand. Fengxiu slowly pointed one of his fingers forward, and that finger as fair as any female's nimbly made contact with the sharp end of the sword of creation and life. But with this bit, all the incandescence instantly dispersed. No release of mighty darkness essence in the Star Demon Pagoda followed, but just from that, Long Houchen's body shook violently. The terrifying sword intent finally flared out the next instant, but was not directed toward the demon god Emperor Xiaofeng, but dispersed to all directions of the Star Demon Pagoda. The incomparably sharp sword intent moved rhythmically all around, making all members a bright glimmer of hope feel as if they had returned to the desolate hissing cavern from that time. This flare out of sword aura and sword intent gradually dispersed after a whole dozen breaths' time, and the incandescent-colored brilliance gradually vanished. Fengxiu slowly withdrew his right hand, then waved his fingertip forward. Long Houchen still remained in the same position, unmoving. As if his whole person was poured into the previous sword strike, his look was still the same determined one, but appeared totally static. Feng Xiu's fair fingertip leaked a drop of blood, soaked in an intense golden color. Very good, very good. Feng Xiu suddenly revealed a smile, a large and hysterical smile. As he howled with laughter, the whole Star Demon Pagoda shivered, and the Moon Demon God and Star Demon God couldn't help but stimulate their spiritual energy to defend their own bodies. But all the members from Bright Glimmer of Hope sustained its terrifying pressure and were sent flying to the Star Demon Pagoda's walls. That instant, Kia was awakened in Wang Yuanyuan's arms. Houchen! Right when opening her eyes, Kia immediately shouted. She saw in a glance the unmoving Long Houchen standing there, as well as the Demon God Emperor laughing frantically. The Demon God Emperor's power was just too terrifying. Even if that was just laughter, it suppressed everyone present, making them totally unable to move. Goodbye, youngster. The Demon God Emperor's laughter stopped suddenly, and in a wave of his hand, that drop of dark red blood wrapped in intense golden light shot toward Long Houchen like an arrow, marking his chest. In a spurt of blood, a small hole appeared on the location of Long Houchen's chest, and immediately, a bursting sound was heard, and a fist-sized bloody hole appeared around the area that had been pierced. Strangely, there was not even a single drop of blood. But a bloody hole was left in Long Houchen's chest, making it visible that his heart had disappeared. The Golden Foundation armor was actually of no use at all. No one was able to assist Long Houchen. The restrictions in this Star Demon Pagoda were arranged not by the Star Demon God Visago, but by the joint effort of the Demon God Emperor Feng Xiu, the Moon Demon God Agaz, and the Star Demon God Visago. Even a super divine tool's power would be unable to pass through space in there. No? Kia charged forward frantically, but was unable to budge in the slightest due to the unbendable power of suppression released from the Demon God Emperor's body. Seeing in person the scene of her beloved man's heart getting smashed, Caia instantly felt totally blank. As a mouthful of blood was spurted out from her mouth, she lost consciousness in Wang Yuanyuan's embrace. A blank space, full of memories. Shattering sounds resounded in Kia's brain, and bit by bit, all kinds of memories surged in Kia's mind. Are you okay? I can't speak, bad people are chasing me, they will arrive soon. Sister, save me. It is brother, not sister. I feel their presence, they will arrive soon. They can track my scent. Go, quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late, out of the question. As a man, I must protect you, little sister, where are you going? I'll help you, there's no need, let me help you, please. I will escort you home, I told you there's no need, hey can you escort me for a little while, please, yeah. Where do you live? 250 meters forward, then 120 meters after turning right and, finally, we'll arrive 60 meters after turning left. You, what's your name? My name is Long Houchen. How about you? Underscore. My name is Kia. Kia, for how long are you staying in Holy City? Why are you asking this? I just want to know for how many more days I can keep sending you off. I'm just a blind girl. Is sending me off really such an important thing? I don't know. I'm not a burden for you. How could you be a burden for me? Kia, actually I am really very ugly. Seeing that I am so ugly, how could I think of you like a burden? Very ugly? Yes, very ugly. Then are you willing to keep holding my hand forever? I am willing. Let me help you. Let me go. This is our home. Caia, I promise that I will make a warm home for you. Our home? Yeah. Idiot, what are you waiting for before giving me some clothes to wear? Yeah. No peeking. Yeah. She just remembered everything, the whole time they spent together, every part of the process. And all the memories, be it before or after her amnesia, instantly merged as one. Tears were flowing from Kia's eyes. Seeing Houchen's heart destroyed, she felt as if it was her own heart that was destroyed. Her tears were mildly red-colored, and gradually turned bright red. Long Houchen's body swayed lightly, falling slowly to the ground. That strong will in his eyes didn't disappear from beginning to end. The instant he issued that challenge to the Demon God Emperor, he had cut the soul-sharing chain's link, and as his body toppled over, his eyes were looking at Kia's direction and slowly closing. From Kia's point of view, his look was just as gentle. Even while closing his eyes, he seemed to be expressing his everything to Kia. There was a thin grief, but mostly encouragement, as if telling Kia to survive, and live courageously. Long Houchen had just died, closing his eyes contentedly. With the promise made by the demon god emperor, his comrades would be able to leave alive from there, and this was already enough in his eyes. Trapped in such desperate straits, he was already satisfied that the others would leave alive from there. In the instant he collapsed, he came to read far too many things in Kia's eyes. He saw all kinds of things from the past, saw that coldness and warmth belonging to Kia alone. She finally recovered her memories. Long Houchen felt extremely unwilling, even at the instant of his death, he was still unwilling to see Kia in such a painful and unwilling state. So he shut his eyes, and revealed a thin smile on his face. Long Houchen's body fell heavily to the ground. Mysteriously, the penetrated area on his chest didn't leak out any blood. His whole body sank heavily in darkness, and everything instantly became distant. He only felt as if flying far in the midst of darkness, feeling very cozy, as if all his worries and duties had broken away at once. He just felt very light, heading to a direction with only endless relaxation. All the looks on the faces of the demon hunters from Bright Glimmer of Hope became dull. They were gazing at Long Houchen's direction, unable to even let out tears. It seemed as if time had stopped perpetually on that instant. They wanted to shout, cry bitterly, yell, but were unable to let out the slightest sound. That captain who had led them and hindered over the continent through countless experiences of life or death, Long Houchen, the Saint Knight head from the Night Temple, God's chosen one, Scion of Light, had left them forever. Long Houchen's corpse was lying unmoving, still showing a smiling face. But it was as if he had taken away all spirit from every member of Bright Glimmer of Hope. Every single one of them had turned close to zombies on that instant. The demon god Emperor's Fengxiu's look was also lifeless, calmly looking at Long Houchen lying on the floor. From the finger he had just used, drop after drop of blood flowed and dropped to the ground. Just as it seems, he was wounded. Although he hadn't used any of his own abilities or equipment, the demon god Emperor, reaching a spiritual energy of 1 million and unequaled it in the continent, got his finger wounded by Long Houchen's last sword strike. The looks of the moon demon god and star demon god also froze, but deep in their hearts, they let out deep breaths of relief. This person, Austin Griffin's blood contractor, finally died. The demon's threat, that heavenly wrath they feared beyond compare, was finally gone. In a world of black and red, an immense figure was crawling in a cave, his 6 heads all looking upwards. The surroundings were a mess in this firm cave, and he had countless bruises all over his body. His 6 heads were still looking up high, but all the eyes on all his heads leaked purple blood. His aura was fading bit by bit, while the amethyst-colored scales on him also gradually lost their luster. In the midst of unwilling howls reverberating inside a cave, his 6 heads, which up to now were held high, dropped unwillingly. All the pressure was obliterated completely in an instant. The demon hunters from Bright Glimmer of Hope fell to the ground one after another, but still dazedly remained on the ground, all their looks still gathered on this youth lying on the ground, still smiling but without an ounce of life left. Abruptly freeing herself, Kia forced herself to stand on the ground. Her face was already empty of tears. At that moment, memories of the times that he took the enemy's attack for her one time after another echoed inside her. Her body was shaking violently in unwillingness, and her aura grew further and further in intensity in the midst of her shaking. Taking one staggering step forward after another, Kia advanced toward him, until she tumbled onto him. Her hand was lifted lightly, falling on that handsome face and touching it. "He's dead, my Houchen is dead." "How could you part from me like that?" Kia murmured lightly. "Idiot, I just remembered everything about us." "You are my idiot. How could you die and leave me alive? Didn't you say that you would protect me for a lifetime as my guardian knight? How could you just die like that?" In a light buzz, Long Houchen's chest swayed, and a golden object came to view on the left side of the golden foundation armor. That was a small golden skull, the eternal melody which was embedded long ago on his chest and that Long Houchen had never been able to struggle free from. Now that he was dead, the eternal melody finally parted from him, separating from his body. As the key to the Tower of Eternity, it had no obligation to guard a dead person, so it chose to leave. Kia grabbed that golden skull almost instantly. Her body couldn't refrain from shaking, but that instant, she suddenly became stiff for a short period of time, before she threw herself on Long Houchen in loud sobs. "Get lost, all of you, just get lost." The demon god Emperor, standing in silence, suddenly broke out in the kind of state of hysteria he had just before entering, bellowing these words frantically. The gate of the Star Demon Pagoda opened abruptly, and a gale blew suddenly and engulfed every of the demon hunters as well as Long Houchen's corpse, expelling them outside of the Star Demon Pagoda. "Spread my order that no demon is allowed to stop them from leaving from Modu Core City." No one is to chase after him, or his whole clan will be wiped out. The demon god emperor's cold voice broke out suddenly, and his terrifyingly formidable mental force abruptly spread to the whole Modu Core city in a burst. The terrifying might that was unleashed that instant made all the demons in Modu Core city crawl in fear, not daring to budge. Right, their almighty emperor was furious, and almost every one of the demon god emperor's bursts of fury would be the trigger of a calamity. In a fierce wave of his hand, the star demon pagoda closed its gate, and at that very moment, the demon god emperor Fengxiu had to take large gasps to breathe. Looking upwards, his chest undulated violently. These terrifying magic fluctuations made the moon demon god Agaz and star demon god Visago alert, and they shivered slightly. A demon god emperor in an unstable mood was an absolutely terrifying thing. Even killing the two of them would not be an impossible thing for him. Fengxiu's fists were clenched, and in the end a dark golden teardrop rolled from the outer side of his eye. Opening his eyes abruptly, he looked toward the moon demon god emperor Agaz. Aren't you baffled that I have just let these humans off? Agaz kept quiet out of fear and didn't dare utter a word. Let me tell you, it is because this young man I have just killed has my blood flowing in his body, and was originally the second successor I had arranged. From the time of his birth, I didn't do anything for him, and until that day I found out about him, I have not even once meddled with him. But he unfortunately concluded a blood contract with Austin Griffin, so I had to personally kill someone in whom my blood is flowing. Do you understand? All I could do for him was to let him die with the least regrets possible. Agaz raised his head abruptly and had an expression full of unbelief. Never did he imagine that this so-called sign of light and human's future hope Long Haochen actually had the demon god emperor's blood flowing inside him. That was the Devil Dragon clan's royal blood. Visago didn't mutter a word from beginning to end. As the one who utilized the great prophecy technique, he was the only one aside from the demon god emperor to be aware of that relationship between Long Haochen and the demon god emperor. Fengxiu suddenly showed a smile, instantly recovering his calm, and declared coldly, "The holy war is over. Agaz, go recall all our troops." After all, some human blood was flowing in him. Now that he has already died at my hands for the sake of my race, I want none of our troops to launch any active attacks on humans for 10 days as a tribute for him. His eyes suddenly turned soft. "Child, the instant of your death, you weren't aware of the relationship between you and me. I can only do this much for you. As a human saying stands, even wild beasts look after their young, which is to say that even the worst being in the world won't go kill his own children, his own kin. But I killed you, sacrificing you for the sake of my race's longevity. You, my descendant, my very own descendant. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha." The demon god emperor's hysterical laugh once again shook the star demon pagoda, blowing at once all the seals on it. Barely tough enough, this long-lived building managed to remain without crumbling. All members from Bright Glimmer of Hope couldn't help but fall one after another to the ground. The demon god emperor had really let them go, but at this time, they only had an endless pain and sadness filling them. Kia held Long Haochen's corpse, placing his back on the ground and preventing him from sustaining any shock. Her slim waist suddenly straightened vigorously. Pressing on the energetic ball of light to get up, Simus Yan's eyes were very hard. Swinging his weapon backward, he declared, "I am going to stake my life against them." "Stop it!" In a thunderous way, Kia's extremely cold shout stopped Simus Yan stiff. Every member from Bright Glimmer of Hope had their attention pulled, and looked at her all at once. Kia's look was filled with an extreme determination and grim aura spreading all around, and was swept coldly at the group. "Follow me, all of you." An unquestionable might was contained in her voice. At that very moment, everyone in the team felt just as if that overwhelming Saint Daughter of Samsara of the time of the Demon Hunt selection was back. Their will could only be affected by Kia's call. 2 traces of tears of blood still remained on Kia's face. Seeing her, none of them would possibly oppose her no matter how sad and in pain they were. Right, even if they were in even more pain than that, how could that compare to Kia? "Follow me, all of you." While making this cold order, Kia rose in the sky, tightly gripping Long Haochen, without even avoiding the demon powerhouses that were surrounding this place for a long time. A pair of grey wings spread out on her back, pushing her body to fly afar. Around the Star Demon Palace, a large quantity of powerhouses from the Devil Dragon Clan, Moon Clan, Star Clan floated in midair, but no one dared move against them. Everyone having heard very clearly the Demon God Emperor's words, who would dare oppose them? The deep purple armored Arbao was standing calmly on the walls. Seeing Long Haochen held in Kia's arms, his look was actually totally vacant, only feeling as if he had lost something deep in his heart. He was the most aware of how much effort he had expended on these 2 years, making incessant qualitative leaps in his strength through a very frantic cultivation. But at the moment, he was finding out that his rival wasn't anymore. The long houchen held in Kia's arms was visibly lifeless, and the hole in his chest was clearly apparent. He died, actually killed by father's hands. Arbao didn't have the slightest feeling of relaxation, but became instead all the more unwilling. He wanted to defeat him personally, but Long Houchen had died just like that by his own father's hands. He wasn't qualified to call that act into question, but knew that this was the greatest regret of his lifetime. Now that Long Houchen was dead, he would never have the opportunity to prove his superiority in strength to Yu Yi anymore. Everyone from Bright Glimmer of Hope released their spiritual wings and followed Kia as they sank into the distance. Her previous teardrops kept falling on his face, and violent undulations were caused in the light emanating from their spiritual wings. Gliding through the air, Kia's look was only concentrated on Long Houchen's pale yet bloodless face. He was still as handsome, but just didn't have the slightest trace of life anymore. Her memories had returned, but now he was gone, without even being left the slightest chance to talk with her newborn self. Kia had stopped crying, because she had a final hope deep in her heart, a hope that had appeared the instant she touched Long Houchen's body. If not for this thin hope, she would not have let him go off alone no matter what, and would have followed him at any cost. In hurried flight, they left Modu's area at rapid speed, leaving behind this city that had filled them with extreme sadness and pain. After flying for about half an hour, Kia's wings suddenly vanished, letting her land on the ground below. No one in the team understood her act, but still followed her in landing. Although Long Houchen had died, their demon hunt squad still maintained the same organizational structure thanks to Zhong Fangfang's presence. Long Houchen's last words before his death still kept echoing in them. They couldn't die like that, they had to take revenge for their captain, to return to Modu one day no matter what. This was a forest of low density where Kia kept holding Long Houchen, before cautiously putting him down upon arriving on a flat lawn. Reflexively, everyone in the demon hunt squad surrounded him all around. Chen Ying immediately bitterly cried out loud, and the rest couldn't stop their tears either. Kia slowly kneeled to the ground, looking at that blue ring on her finger, _ the forget-me-not ring. He actually handed it back to me. Taking it off lightly, Kia took Long Houchen's left hand and put it back on his finger. Idiot, why are you giving it back to me? It was already yours since long ago, just like my heart. Saying these words, Kia lifted her hand and slowly recovered the pendant Eternal Melody, which was placed back on Long Houchen's neck. That golden skull ejected from his chest suddenly flickered with light. In a deep breath, a determined look flashed through her eyes as she slowly placed this key of the Tower of Eternity back on her own chest. The instant the Eternal Melody came in contact with her body, it immediately emitted a radiating light. In a swish, that skull got into Kia's lapel and integrated with her body closely, just like the time it had united with Long Houchen. The Tower of Eternity only wanted one successor. Now that Houchen had died in the Demon God Emperor's trapping barrier, it didn't have any more use to make of him, and obviously looked for a new successor. This was already unrelated to the will of the slumbering Calamity Elux, as the Tower of Eternity had become even more greedy after obtaining so many souls from this world, gaining a great deal of self-awareness. We are going. Kia's eyes were swept over the surrounding comrades. After speaking these words, an intense brilliance burst forth from her chest, just like the times Long Houchen was teleporting them away. Everyone was engulfed inside, and traveled through space in a flash of light. In another flash of light, they appeared in the Tower of Eternity. The Tower of Eternity's intense aura of death was still present, and just then, everyone in Bright Glimmer of Hope had an incredibly grim look. Yang Wenjiao and Duan Yi, who were anxiously waiting for their return until now, made haste upon their return. But their footsteps slowed down very rapidly, and the look on their eyes congealed in a split second, because lying on the ground they saw Long Houchen, with a fatal wound on his chest. There wasn't the slightest trace of life left on his pale handsome face. The captain of the Demon Hunt Squad, Bright Glimmer of Hope, Scion of Light Long Houchen, had died in battle. How could that be? Yang Wenjiao lost his voice at once. Chen Ying abruptly rushed to his chest, starting to cry very loudly. Duan Yi didn't ask but slowly kneeled down, placing his right fist on his chest and performing a knight salute in front of Long Houchen. Demonkind and humankind had been fighting for 6,000 years. Since the fall of the Dark Age, uncountable humans had died like Long Houchen in front of his eyes. There was nothing more he needed to know, the result was just in front of his eyes. Long Houchen was dead. Kia kneeled and lightly pressed Long Houchen's chest, murmuring, "Come out, hurry up. Just come out." No one heard her words, but the current Kia's cold eyes were filled with anxiousness. Just as they were all confused, a dark green glow came out without a sound from Long Houchen's golden foundation armor. This dark green glow looked very mild as a little mist that could disappear at any time. A faint voice was heard from this dark green mist, "He is already dead. So my pact with him is gradually dissipating. All I can do is to keep his soul maintained for 7 days. But it also means that you have only the time of 7 days. There is only one chance, and it lies in this Tower of Eternity. You must succeed as this tower's successor, and rely on the profound mysteries of light necromancy to possibly restore his soul and reforge his heart. If he manages to resurrect, my contract in him will reinstate as well, but otherwise, 7 days later his soul will scatter and be confined in this Tower of Eternity, bound for all eternity. So if you cannot resurrect him within 7 days, just bring him out from here, at least that way his soul won't have to keep suffering here." This video will end here.